Welcome. Multi-step equations. So I'm going to pair kind of a lot of things together with these next couple of videos to kind of close out this Unit 1A for you guys. Jumping right into multi-steps. We'll do 1 and 2 steps and stuff like that in class, but let's go with this for now. So the biggest part of this multi-step thing is that I've got the same variable on both sides of the equal sign. So you need to bring everything to one side for variables and then everything to the other side for regular integers. So let's go ahead and work this one out for sure. Remember PEMDAS, right? And I have to do things to simplify the equation first. I can't just start moving stuff around because that's going to be really weird. This side of the equal sign, it's 3n minus 5. I can't subtract 5 from that because they're not like terms. So moving on to the other side. I've got parentheses here. That means I've got to distribute what is ever on the outside to the inside stuff. That's a negative 8. So the negative 8 is going to go to the 6, so multiplication. So negative 8 times 6 is negative 48. And then negative 8 times 5n. I can do that because multiplication rules are way easier than adding and subtracting rules. So negative 8 times 5n gives me a minus 40n. Now, I can bring down stuff from the other side. I can work that out. I don't know if you can see that, but the board is like shaking a little bit. It's totally freaking me out a little bit. But you can't see it, so good for you. I'll just suffer. Now I can start bringing stuff from one side to the other. And the question is, what can I start with? The answer is I can start with anything I want, as long as it makes sense mathematically. I like to get rid of negatives if I can. And that's a big negative 40n right there. That's a negative 40n. So to get rid of that, I have to do the opposite. We're going to talk a lot about opposites, right? So I'm going to add 40n to both sides of the equal sign. Now, I have to line it up with wherever the other n is, so I don't lose my mind. Now, that cancels. I don't have to write 0 because there's still stuff on that side. However, I want to add these up. So this is going to be 43n minus 5 equals negative 48. Now, the idea is to isolate the variable. So there's a party over here, and I've got to get the negative 5 to go home because we need to get n by itself. So I got to start moving stuff away from n, okay? That's a negative 5, so I have to do the opposite, which is add 5 to both sides, okay? Draw a line, cross out. Drop down what you haven't messed with yet. So 43m is going to equal, I've got a negative 48 and a positive 5, which means I'm going to be left with negative 43. Now I've got multiplication here because there's no sign, there's no plus or minus. I've got to divide by 43 on both sides. Okay, that cancels that. Now I'm left with n. So n is going to equal, and negative 43 divided by positive 43 is negative 1. So my answer is negative 1. When you have these type of equations and you have a lot of mess right here, because we did a lot of work for one equation, right? Do yourself a favor, and when you finally get the answer, substitute that back in for n and make sure that it equals on both sides. And you don't want to make a silly mistake and not check it because it's a lot of work. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Let's do one more, and then you can try 3 on your own. 4, there's some other stuff going on, like in this area, and that's actually my stapler, and that's kind of cool. It's like a car kind of with the trunk open, right? Yeah, it's my stapler and stuff. Have the videos on there, so sorry you're not going to see that one. So do 3 on your own. Let's do 2 together. 2 distributes, right? So that's going to be 8x. 2 distributes to the negative 3, right? Keep in mind it's a negative, right? So that's negative 6 minus 8 equals, and I couldn't do anything on the right side of the equal sign. Now, just stop for a second. 8x is a term. Okay, we call these terms. 8x is a term because they're next to each other. Now, the coefficient is the number that's in front of the variable. So 8, right? Or 18 or whatever that was, but it's 8. Now, negative 6, negative 8, and 4, they're constants. Okay, they're constants because they're just integers by themselves. So coefficient, constant, term, coefficient. Okay? Just so you get your stuff right, and I forget what fever form I had that on, but I think it's this one, so hopefully that works for you. Okay, be careful here. I can simplify negative 6 and negative 8 before I move anything around. So just drop down one more time. 8x, right, same signs, add and keep, minus 14 equals 4 plus 2x. Now I can start moving stuff around. Let's start with something different this time, and it can be different every time. You don't have to have the same exact method. I see a negative 14. I don't like negatives. I want to get rid of it. Okay, it cancels it. Drop it down. 8x equals 18 plus 2x. So now I've got to bring this positive 2x over here because I got to start putting the x's together. So the only way to get rid of that is to do a negative 2x on both sides. It cancels. When I go over here, I'm left with 6x equals 18. And that's a simple one step. I've got to divide on 6 both sides. I'm left with x equals 3. Remember, do as I say, not as I do, right? I'm not checking it because I know it's right, because I'm awesome. X equals 3. Plug it back in to make sure it makes sense on both sides. Yeah, so I'm going to erase this so you can try number 3, because I don't want you to have to rewind. Because rewinding me is weird, because then I start going all kinds of crazy things. Okay, try number 3 on your own, and we'll talk about it in class. All right, adios.